Hey, Dad.
Yes, son?
I've been feeling a bit sick recently. Actually, a little bit depressed. What do you do when you're down?
Depressed? Son, have you ever heard the tale of the little bitch boy?
The little bitch boy? What's that?
The little bitch boy was a slave to his emotions, son. Whenever he felt bad or sad, he would stew in his emotions and say that he was depressed. The little bitch boy would stay depressed because he would whine about his problems instead of solving them. The little bitch boy was not an effective man. However, the little bitch boy's father was an effective man. For the little bitch boy's ancestors had something known as a spook, but the little bitch boy grew up in a world where there was no spook. Spook! A way of viewing the world, son. Everything is a spook. In some things, everything is a spook. In some spooks work better for some people. The little bitch boy had the worst spook of all, which is to say, none.
Am I the little bitch boy, Dad?
What? No, I love you, son, and I wouldn't disparage you. I'm not sure what you are. I was the little bitch boy, son.
You were the little bitch boy?
Yes, son. And I hated being the little bitch boy, so I turned to my father for advice as to what to do. And so I did what he did. I took all of my feelings and I bottled them up. I shoved them deep down inside until I could feel them rotting inside of me.
So you're saying men should ignore their emotions and women should be
No, son, please. Keep listening. In following my father's advice, I realized that it wasn't quite working, and so I changed my spook. I started being emotionally honest with about half of my feelings, and dismissing and shoving away the other half, almost at random, really.
And that's what I should do. If I feel depressed, I should bottle it up, but only sometimes. Just randomly. Yeah, that's a great idea.
No, son. Again, you're missing my point. I don't know what's right for you, but what ended up working for me was being strong most of the time and weak sometimes. And I could differentiate when to be strong and when to be weak based off of how I felt when I was randomly dismissing and acknowledging my emotions earlier.
Yeah, Dad, that is far from a perfect
spook.
And you still haven't told me what to do.
When I was doing that, I was working out for myself when I should be strong and when I should be weak. And in doing that, I found a framework that worked out for me.
This is fucking stupid. All of this is fucking stupid, son. I'm already growing tired of the cadence of my voice. It's a lot harder to try to find out how.
What you need to do, son, is you need to find a spook that works for you. It can be any spook. You can pick one at random, really. What matters is that if you don't have a spook, you need to start following a spook and commit to it, like you would commit to a woman.
It's very easy to just call something stupid. Are you saying women are
spooks?
Why are you so hung up on this?
Everything is a framework, son. People are spooks. Politics is spooks. Morality is spook. All spooks have flaws, but that's not the point. The point is that any spook is better than no spook at all.
Any spook is better than no
spook.
Okay, I barely know what you're even talking about when you say
spook,
but I'm pretty sure I can think of a few worldviews that are objectively worse than other worldviews. Find out how to express a thought on your own.
But if you believe and commit to that terrible spook and try to act it out, if you don't pick for yourself, then you'll never find anything out about anything. And you'll also never have to commit to anything, which is appealing, which is why nihilism won, but is also why nihilism
it's won
is a dead
so
end.
well I
what
can't
I
even
will
say
say is that passive nihilism is a dead end. Humans tend to be creatures
can't know
everything, and faith passive nihilism is a spook in so much as an anti-spook can be a spook.
I'm already growing tired of this video, and I'm not even sure, really, what I'm trying to say. But I have faith, son.
If you never attempt to follow a spook, then you, from your own experience, will know nothing. All you'll have to do is follow the advice of other people whose spooks are stronger than you, who have tried to
If you want to be able
to think for yourself, instead of only being able to follow advice, you're going to have to commit to a spook in the same way you would commit to a woman.
Ooh, you keep saying that. It's not a good look. It's not a good aesthetic that you've chosen as an example here.
When I met your mother, I never thought that she would be the perfect woman for me. Realistically, there is an infinite number of possible women that I could have been. And all of them would have had their pros and cons. But the point isn't to find the perfect woman. I knew your mother was a good choice, but I also knew that she was not perfect. You can find a perfect woman, but without commitment, and you can be perfectly committed. But if you're committed to a terrible woman, then that won't matter either.
You are far too hung up on women as
spook. Son,
Dad.
It is painfully easy to deconstruct as you are doing now. it is much more difficult to posit something and have it be challenged. I'm using life partners as an example, but you could say the same with jobs or hobbies or friends. My point is that it's a lot harder to believe than to disbelieve, but in believing, you make yourself stronger, or at the very least, more defined in a certain direction. Faith makes you more defined. Commitment makes you more defined. Yes, you can be defined by negative spooks, that's definitely possible. But if underlying your spooks there is a metaphor spook that wants to find the best spook, then I have faith that you will orient yourself towards the one that works best for you. The point is to not pick the proper spook that works for you on your first try, but to orient yourself towards the best spook that works for you based off of trial and error. Yep.
Do you ever define faith?
No.
This conversation isn't making me feel any better. It sounds like you're just wordily dismissing my feelings. This spook about spook is just another spook, right? Like, why do you waste so much time thinking about this stuff? Why couldn't you just give me some normal advice?
Maybe I'm trying to work some things out here myself, my son. And yeah, I think saying I've thought about this too much is a fair point. But, within the context of this conversation, you have asked me for my thoughts. And now, I'm going to give them to you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't at least interested in them.
A fourth wall break is not clever anymore, Dad. You have to get with the times, jeez.
But, this one, right now, is to me, son. I'm aware of the deconstruction, and yet I choose the construction out of the deconstructed
I could say
parts.
that there is no
that
point
is the
to any of
reconstruction.
this.
Or I could say,
And perhaps
that there is faith in this
and
point
have
will
faith
make
that
there
there
will be a point.
Well, what if I don't want to be defined? What if I don't want to play by the rules of a spook, huh? What if I want to just remain an amorphous blob, ever-changing, impossible to pin down or criticize?
Don't forget impossible to love, son. This is the attempt to reconstruct the deconstructed. We must choose to make sense of things ourselves, or else we will be possessed by a spook that is stronger than our own.
I think I get it, though I still have the suspicion here that this could be easily interpreted as terrible advice.
It's not exactly advice, my son. It is meta-advice. Be open to changing your mind, but not so open that you throw away a good woman, and not so closed that you hold on to a bad one.
Well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play this game.
Having no spook is choose to not play the game. If you don't actively choose to adopt a spook, then one will actively choose to adopt you.
You're not my biological
In terms
son.
of this depression, if you don't choose to have a spook about this issue, then this issue will have a spook that is the status quo, and you will be dependent on pills for the rest of your life. The status quo works very well for some people, but it does not work well for everyone. And that is why the status quo must be actively chosen and not passively accepted.
So, the core of what you're saying here, underneath all these words, is just I shouldn't be on pills. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily, son. Just because something is accepted and amplified by the status quo does not mean that it is right for everyone. An office job works for some people, and it doesn't work for others. Kids and a wife work for some people, and it doesn't work for others. These are spokes I have chosen, but the most miserable people are those who have passively and unwittingly adopted spokes that work against their own interests.
Oh, that's why this conversation is on a politics channel, right?
Right, son. The status quo is not really our enemy, because the status quo is still a spook. Our enemy is the apathy that props up the spook. The status quo is the sickness that infects those who don't have the spook and replaces the passive anti-spook with the active dominant framework. They're bucking the system by choosing not to adopt a spook are actively propping it up by being possessed by it. Our enemy is not the sickness, but the diseased. The infection of the status quo is not a fault of the status quo. It is a fault of spokes. Spokes infect. Spokes are diseases.
Advice
you can't
is
choose
an
not to be
infection.
diseased. You must pick your disease. Whether you like it or not, disease has already run through your head. You must pick one.
You are already
to stick with.
hopelessly
You will live
sick.
that disease.
You are
will love
already
that
hopelessly
disease.
sick.
You will
You are
identify
already
with the
hopelessly
disease.
sick.
If our disease was the status quo, then we would still be infecting those who claim to not have spokes. Thus, we do not blame the status quo, we blame the victims of the status quo disease. But none of this is really about politics. It never has been about politics.
This conversation or this channel?
Let's look at it another way. In order to make art, you need to have a spook. Art is the expression of a spook, emotional communication of spook works. You'll never make art if you do not accept a spook, but if you accept any spook and start making art about that, then you will know how to make art. Then you will change your spook and make different art.
But Dad, let's be real. You don't have a spook. You don't make art about having a spook. You make art about not having a spook. Make art about being passively consumed by stronger
Spooks. That's a fair interpretation, son, but you can also look at it as the attempt to orient myself towards a genuine spook.
An exercise for the schizotypal. Schizotypal? So this is just advice for the mentally ill then? We're all mentally ill now, son. What happens when the spooks dissolve? Everyone is mentally ill now, son.
Culturally, we are going through the same process.
We're going through the same process of disintegration and reintegration. Schizotypal you'll wrestle with. They're probably why we should start listening to them.
Deeply
Hey,
sick
son,
creatures.
and don't you get started on romanticization
Yes, and we live
of
in
mental
sick
illnesses.
times.
If one
Oh, we
medicates
live
away
in
the
sick
symptoms of
times,
sickness,
and only
it
the
becomes
sick-
a lot more difficult to
only the
articulate
sick
sickness
can-
now, doesn't
can-
it, son?
can,
And one must articulate a
articulate the
problem
symptoms
before a
of sickness.
solution. That's a
Yes.
fair
The
interpretation,
sickness
son.
is
But you can
the
look at it as a
cold.
genuine
It's the
attempt to
sickness
orient
is
oneself
spook.
towards the
Framework.
proper
Spook.
framework,
Sickness
just
is
by
the
trying them
illness
all
of
out.
the mental
What
health.
else are you supposed to do? All right, I've got it. I figured out the core of your advice. You want me to talk about my feelings at random, and just ignore half of them, but take half of them very seriously. Have we reached the conclusion to this conversation?
No, son, that's just generally the path I took. What I want you to do is find a spook that you think will work for you, and then I want you to commit to it and work within it. Whether it ends up being the one you die with isn't important. What's important is that by adopting it and working within it, you are learning.
Huh, okay, I think I can do that.
I hope you can, my son. So I've been sick for a while now, and it's why the only video I've produced in the last 2 weeks has been 30 seconds long. But I've also been sick for a while now. I still want to talk to you, because I have faith that me talking to you is still going to be important. Because it is important to me. Because when I look at you, when I see what I've made, I see something beautiful, and I lose sight of beauty too easy. And all this talk of spooks and meta-advice melts away in the face of beauty, and you stop wondering if you're a meta-modern man and just start being a man. All this talk and overthought and meditation on medication on medication, all of that melts away in the face of beauty. Because in you, I see pride. And it's not even pride in myself. I'm glad that I set you on this path, but I don't take credit for the path. It's rewarding to see how you've grown. And I hope we can grow together. I need to eat some chicken soup.